Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Patriots Day version of No Limits. My name is Scott Morgan, North Motor City Madmouth. Pleased to be joined by Jennifer Lee Cobb. Glad to have you on here, Jen.
Good to be here.
All right, well, I want to let everybody know right now that first and foremost, in honor of 9/11 and those that lost their lives, we'll observe a moment of silence. So here you go, and we'll be back in 30 seconds. All right, well, back, and once again, we want to send our deepest condolences for all the individuals, family members that had to deal with this unfortunate tragedy that occurred back then. I had the opportunity to revisit that site a year ago and the way they've rebuilt it. Plus, I also had an opportunity a few years ago when I saw that they were rebuilding, and it was not a site that you really want to see, but it just is a tragic reminder that our society is far from perfect, and we need to work toward making sure these terrorist attacks don't occur. And I also want to point out too, Jen, that we can't lose sight of the fact that this incident affected the Pentagon and Washington, D.C., as well as that plane crash that occurred in Pennsylvania. So, I know the 9/11 memorial is one thing, but there's, you had the Pentagon as well as that plane crash. Well, all right, Jen, where were you actually on 9/11 when all of this took place?
I was actually in Bora Bora, and it's a French-owned island. Um, we were scheduled to come back the next day, and they said, "Sorry, but you cannot leave the island. You're going to be hunkered down here for the next couple of days." And I just said, "Excuse me, bartender, can I have another margarita?" I mean, I wasn't going back to the United States, so I might as well order another drink, watch it all unfold on BBC. But after a couple of days of that, I just wanted to get back to USA soil. And when I got off the plane and got walked into LAX, there was nobody in the airport. It was lines of army soldiers, with guns, rifles at stance, all lined up against the wall, and it was eerie quiet. It was the most. It was disturbing to actually experience, and it
Yeah,
was it was very frightening actually. So, I got back on the plane to come back to St. Louis, and I was just so happy to finally. Sorry about that. Um, I was just so happy to be in my car and on my way home.
yeah, I
So,
actually flew out
but
on
of course,
September 9th, which was that.
a lot
I'm
has
sorry, go
happened
ahead.
since. Yeah, and you know, the media only gives us enough information for what they want us to know. I just don't want to know anymore because really what it amounts to is it's a horrible event any way you look at it. Many families will forever be affected, and I just pray every day that myself and my family and friends we're all safe, and we you know there's always, even though it was so tragic, there's always something that you can take from that moment, at least from my perspective as a mother, to teach my children from that historical moment. And, evil is evil no matter what package it's delivered in. And it's horrible that there are people that are out there that are that way. But the Lord knows what He's doing, and He's got this, and I have great faith in him, and carry that on to what I instill into my children and my family. And but any way you look at it, it's just a horrible, horrible event,
Yeah,
and my heart breaks and aches for the families and those that were involved and are affected forever from that.
Right. Yeah. As I'll say this, I was in Florida at the time, and I ended up flying back on September 9th, 2 days before this took place. I was actually living in Arizona, Chandler, Arizona at the time. And I go to my attorney's office on 9/11. And he said, "Did you hear what happened?" I said, "No, not really, because I'm traveling to see you." And that's when I first found out about the tragic events of 9/11. And ironically, as we speak, I flew out on that particular day on the 9th, which is Saturday. And of course, now 9/11 occurred on Monday. So now here we are, dial it up to 2023. And we're talking about it with the irony of the days, what they are in terms of what we're talking
Right.
about. So, but anyways, certainly couldn't start off the show without being able to address this. I do want to point out, I'm sorry, Jen.
Thank you so much for that.
Oh, my pleasure. It's my heart's out of those, everybody that lost. And having been to that site a couple of times, it's, you have to see it, but your heart is gonna be tugged big time. So I already know that No Limits is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of No Limits can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 8,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Send your topic ideas to southfloridatribune at gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website is www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter at Tribune South, and Candy Ebling is behind the scenes. She did a good job making sure that photo was put up there so everybody can see it. All right, onward we go. A few things we want to talk about tonight, Jen, and we will do exactly that. Let's talk about opening season. I want your input on that and explain to everybody what opening season is all about.
Oh, talk about magic moments. I'm actually in Colorado as we speak. Tonight I'm going to the Red Rock Amphitheater, which is known for their acoustics. It's the most beautiful, amazing um, theater concert venue in the country. It's a place, if you ever go to a concert, this is the place that you want to go and perform at. It's inside in the mountains. It's kind of built in there. So my first experience tonight, gonna watch Stephen Miller, like abracadabra, I want to reach out and grab you. Remember that song?
That is funny.
You remember that song, don't you, Scott? Come on. Who could not
No.
remember that song?
I
I'll
mean,
pick the song tonight. I'll send it to you. But yeah, I'm going to see him in concert. I'm excited. But the great thing is, I was at the Denver Bronco Raider game last night, opening season for them. I saw more Raider hater T-shirts I've ever seen in my life. But Raiders pulled it off by 1 point, so good for them. It was a really great game. I feel so bad for that kicker. He gave up the one extra point for the first touchdown, Broncos. So now we're already down 6-7. And then there was a field goal. He missed it. There's another three. So we've already, you know, gave away 4 points, and we lost at the end of the game by 1. So not a good start for the Denver Broncos. Good start for the Raiders, but the Denver Broncos never been to the stadium. It's outdoor, it's amazing, beautiful. They did it right. There was lots of fireworks. Fans were just on fire. Very polite with the Raiders there. Just good camaraderie. I'm not sure how happy they were exiting the stadium, but for the most part, it was a really great experience. And honestly, Scott, by sitting there, I got front row on the 35-yard line. So I was right behind the Broncos bench, basically on the field, getting to see the cheerleaders, which was a lot of fun, of course. But it really brought back a lot of memories for me, the days I was on the field. And I just kept thinking a lot about what it's like for these players years from now when they do decide to retire and hang up their helmets and retire
Right.
football, like where is their identity moving forward? Like where do they go from here,
Right.
if any, if they even have a plan?
Right.
Like what goes on when they finally give up that lifestyle from dreaming of it since they were a peewee of 33 years old,
Yeah.
and now these men playing professionally, making money for their career. And I'm just sitting there watching and thinking and remembering how much fun it was for me as well as the players on game day. you know the
Right.
fun is of course on the field, but the real fun happens in the locker room. There's a lot of camaraderie, goofing, jokes, laughing, lots of playground, antics that are just, brings you back to childhood. Um, and so where their relevancy lies when they retire and become an alumni
Right.
just made me think about when I went through that, but also the days looking back, Isaac Bruce,
Hmm.
Marshallfaulk, Kurtwarner. Kurt
Right.
has a movie. Isaac Bruce has his foundation. He's coaching out in Florida now. He's a Hall of Famer. Marshall Falk has started a business doing very, very successful. He's out in Las Vegas, California, moving and grooving or wherever they're at. But for the most part, finding out, what their identity is now that they're not in uniform. And so I often wonder if you could ask a lot of these players, at what point in their career do they start transitioning into that next
Right.
phase? You know, um, Rogers, he's back on the field, coming back, quarterbacking. Many times Brady started talking about retirement.
Right.
I'm retiring. He's got his game day in place and then comes back, and now he's back on the team, playing on the field. And then, there's whisper behind the scenes, I'm going to retire now. So it's like, I just often wonder, when does that transition start to take, um, to take place in these players' minds? At what point in their career?
That's a great question. I got a couple questions for you. Number one, you really struck a chord in a couple of good ways. First of all, since the Rams left St. Louis, okay, do you are you rooting for the Denver Broncos now? Is that the new team that you're following?
No, I just so happened to be here for the concert.
Okay.
So
All
I
right.
just the game, and Broncos and Raiders are playing. But
Right.
but while I was there, these thoughts were in my mind, and I was
Right.
just watching a lot of these players, at the pinnacle of their career, you know, playing at such high athleticism.
Right.
What time and what point of their career do they start to really evaluating the next phase of their life? Like what's their new identity going to be? Where are they going to take this? Are they going to coach? Like, look at Deion Sanders. Now, we all know Deion first year took the game against Nebraska. I got off the plane. I saw more red in Colorado, Nebraska Husker fans I've ever seen in my
Right.
entire life. Deion comes on board, signs with the college, takes these young men and says, "Hey, you're going to do it my way. You're all going to sign Christian values. You're going to sign a contract. You're going to do it my way, and you're going to work the formula the way I see fit." I'm not saying it's right or wrong. All I know is that he came off of a good win like yesterday or the day before. So that's what Dion is doing in his next phase of life. Coming
Right.
off the field, he's retired. Now what is he going to do? He's coaching for
Right.
Colorado.
You're giving me an idea. Now, you know what happens when you get my wheels turning. What do you think happens when you get my wheels turning? I'll let you answer it.
I don't know. Go for it. You
Yeah,
go ahead.
be prepared for anything. So start memorizing that phrase because I'm going to
Yeah.
quiz you at some point down the road. And when you talk about the locker room, anybody can relate to a locker room. It's me because obviously I've interviewed a lot of players in the locker room. I don't think the locker room access is as good these days. Things have really changed. But I know the camaraderie. I know the game day routine. Even being a reporter, my game day routine, I get there 4 or 5 hours before the game, prepare, and then be there. For me, an NFL game is 10 to 12 hours a day, no less than that. Between
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
well, between prep, Jen, and then the actual game, and then post game. I mean, my goodness. But no, that's what we. And of course, the cheerleaders. Well, once upon a time, many years ago, I don't know if you knew this, but I'll tell you now, many years ago, the Detroit Lions used to have high school cheerleaders over at the Pontiac Silverdome to give them an opportunity, and they used to rotate them, and it was a thrill for them. I don't know if you ever knew that, but it was a pretty interesting idea. But they had done that, good opportunity for the kids at local. I thought it was a good community idea. So it's
Well,
amazing.
game day, to piggyback off what you said, so the players and the cheerleaders, our
Yeah.
call time on field is 7 a.m. So the guys are on the field.
Oh,
They're doing their warm up. They're going through the playbook. The cheerleaders, we're going through our routines, our dance routines, what we're going to do on the field, our spacing, going through all the choreography. So we're practicing 2 hours before the game. So that brings us to about 9:30. Then we all go back to the locker room. They get into their uniforms. We get into our uniforms, hair and makeup. Now, the fellas don't have hair and makeup, and maybe they do. No judgment on my half. If they don't want to have their hair and makeup done, good for them. But I just see them in helmets, helmets in their uniform.
right,
See us with our hair and makeup. But and then we have lunch. And then we are called on the field by 11:30, 11:40 for
right,
the tunnel. And so when you have a 12 o'clock, 12:10 kickoff, if you think about it, it's a 4.5 hour game from start
right,
to finish. You go back, you shower, you get into professional clothes, you walk out
right,
of the stadium. The guys are in the suits, the girls were in professional attire, and
right.
you leave the stadium, and that's, somewhere around 6, 7 o'clock at night. So,
Long
yeah,
day.
12 hours.
It's a long day, no matter how you slice it, from your end to mine. Either way, it's a long day. But you know what? We do it because we enjoy doing it. And I'm being the longtime journalist that I've been doing it for a long, long time, John. It never gets old when you're really in your element. I don't care what it is, whether you're in the element promoting Parkinson's, cheerleading, and me looking to find the best content that I can get. I probably am my own worst enemy these days. I get so intense if I don't get what I'm looking for in a game. I get angry, and if you're a PR guy that prevented me from doing it, then you don't want to be on the wrong end of my wrath. I'm not going to get into there because anytime you have a good competitor working your tail off, nobody wants to feel like you left anything on the table. And that's just how it is. All right. And one thing I really want to address tonight, John, is a magazine article that was written about the healthy planet. Okay. And I'm going to preface this by saying that when I read that article, it took me over an hour and 10, 15 minutes, whatever our first show was,
I,
to address everything in that thing. But you know what? Nothing like the old verbal voice, nothing like the visual. But that was an excellent article. It made me think,
thank
man,
you.
I could have had those people prep my show. I didn't have to do anything. Go ahead, take it away, Jen.
The Healthy Planet, what a joy. They came to me and they said, good people doing good things. Jennifer Cobb, we would love to do an article on your life and what brought you to where you are today. And if that article can inspire someone out there to do good, then my mission accomplished. Um, I've always been someone that gives a lot of themselves to charitable organizations. Lately, it's to my children, getting them to a part in their life, a phase in their life where they're, um, when they fly away from mom, that they fly away where I look and say, you know what, I did good. I did my parenting the way I should, and they're gonna make something of themselves in this world, and hopes to inspire someone else. And momentum's a hell of a thing. And so carrying that momentum, that legacy on to my children, so they can remember their mom more than a mother in the home, caring for them and driving them to and from their activities. And I want them to remember my legacy um, beyond being their mother. Outside of the home is what the article talks a lot about. The charitable contributions that I did with the Rams, the NFL, and how many years I've contributed to that, which allowed me to start my own 501c3, which is Team Gateway to a Cure, which
Right.
focuses our efforts on the caregivers that stay home with their loved ones and how they have resources available to them that they can go to help support them in their efforts in the home. And that's really, really important. And also talks about the days I was on the field with the Rams and the things that I
Right.
personally accomplished. One being um, the going out to Maui, Hawaii, um, becoming the fittest woman in America. And speaking about Maui, my heart breaks for those that and the families and your friends and loved ones that have been affected by the fires that went just currently happened to that beautiful island of Maui. Um, it destroyed so much history that had been part of that island forever, and
Right.
it's all gone. So it just goes to show you that you know you just enjoy every day, every moment that you have given to you, because it's not necessarily a day. The next day is not guaranteed. So I always
Right.
thank the Lord for today, and God, Lord willing, I'll have another one tomorrow. But I was pretty honored by the Healthy Planet and the article that they wrote, but not necessarily mostly because of what my accomplishments are that I acquired over the years, but what those accomplishments stood for, and in hopes to inspire others through the kind of person that I am, and the giving that I do, and the love that's behind that passion that drives me every day. And so I was honored and very humbled by it, and very excited when it came out. And thank you for your kind words. I'm glad you enjoyed reading it too.
I did. If I'd have had that thing way ahead of time, there wouldn't have been no pre-prep. It would have been all done for me. But no, I'm kidding with you. No, Jennifer, I love prepping anyways. I like to, you know how much I enjoy coming on with you anyways. But it's the truth. I mean, first of all, you inspire me enough to want to produce these shows as often as we can do them. My goodness, I mean, but
Thank
really, I mean, you what you do is you talk about Parkinson's disease. This is something that I've told you from the beginning since we met a couple of years ago, that Parkinson's disease, Jennifer, hits me closer to my heart. And folks, if you hear it every week, well, I don't care, because it's a message we need to accomplish together. Team Gateway to a Cure is designed to provide updates here in terms of progression and how to lick this disease. Muhammad Ali, Chris Roberts out of LA. I don't know if you've ever heard of Chris Roberts. Used to be the president for the Southern California Sports Broadcasters Association, recently died, but he was like a broadcast brother. And I can mention many others. But what you do, Jen, to me, and with your foundation, inspires me to want to do these shows every way I can. The only thing I have to deal with as a host and producer of the show is trying to make sure the message gets out there in the most different ways that I can. So whether and folks, I just want to prepare you down the line here. Jennifer and I are going to be having more and more conversations outside of ourselves. I'll bring on former players at some point and individuals that are associated with head injuries. I just want to make sure that we began our time on No Limits with Jen and I to set the table for what lies ahead and establish what we're doing, and then building on that. But you know what, Jennifer, the kind words I gave you were simply from my heart and my mind. And I'm just very delighted to have you on as often as we can. And I'm confident we're going to build this show to what we know our capabilities are. But not only on the visual side through YouTube, Jen, my goal here is to make sure we build the audio side as well. So when we talk about the Spotify's, the iHeart radios, and the rest of them, not everybody can watch us, Jen. They can't. So I want to make sure that we can, you know,
Right.
make sure that this gets out there. I'm going to use a really interesting analogy that only you could get a kick out of. I want our reach to have something in common with Canada. You know what that is?
What?
I want it to go far and wide.
I knew something good was going to come out of that.
Oh, come on. Well, I mean, for those that know me, say, how much caffeine did you have? Not enough. I'm trying to wane off of it, but enough to get me through these shows and have a whole lot of fun.
Yeah,
I should point out coming up after No Limits.
yeah. So
What's
traumatic
that?
brain injury (TBI) is not talked enough about. Um, and it's not just players, football players, that experience it.
Right.
One of the biggest sports out there that experience the most of TBIs is cheerleading. I'm not talking
Interesting.
the NFL, the professional dancing cheerleading. I'm talking stunt cheerleading, college,
Okay.
high school, that kind of cheerleading. When they're throwing the girls up and tossing them, and there's so many falls, and they really should practice with helmets, head protection. But that's the number one sport out there as of right now that experiences the most TBIs out of all the sports out there. And football has changed quite.
Jen, I think what we're going to do with that,
Yeah, football.
Jen, what I want to do with that topic, because it is a good one. Why don't we can talk about it for a second now, but I want to elaborate on that more next week if that's okay with you.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
We'll turn that into a topic because you know what? This is the one thing until you brought it up, never even dawned on me. And if we can get 5 or 10 minutes on this thing, then I'm convinced that we could be able to let parents and individuals know that, there's a lot more to it than the barbaric sports, such as the boxing, the hockey, and the NFL, or football in general, that are susceptible to Parkinson's disease. Great point. I should point out, folks, after No Limits, Fire Up Wisconsin follows us with Jeremy Balrick and Candy Ebling. So they'll be going out there, and Fire Up Wisconsin returns with a rotating individual every week, and it will follow the early Monday show. It just so happens that Jennifer and I get to do it first. All right. So, and set it up. But no, Jen, though you do bring up a good point, and I think what we're going to do for all intents purposes is we're going to spend more time on that one. So we'll just prepare that as one of the things I want to let everybody know, that the plan is to talk about it next Monday night if you're on board with that.
Absolutely, I love that. Works
Yeah,
for
I just
me.
think that yeah, well, I appreciate you being flexible about certain things because again, our goal is to not only entertain but to educate as well. And I'm a very big stickler and a perfectionist on that. And as if you thought the Canadian analogy was interesting, I treat life one way. Morris had 9 lives. I got to make the most of the one that I have, so I hit you with 2 of them. Look at her.
It's a good one, Scott. I don't know
Oh,
how.
I hit Jennifer with 2 of them tonight. You haven't seen nothing yet, Jen. Let me tell you. We have a few shows, but there are plenty more to come from. So, great show tonight. Any closing thoughts about what you want to do to update your Parkinson's foundations and what you've done? That's one of our standard procedures here about what you've done since the last time we came on.
Yeah, so go to www.teamgatewaytoacure.org and you can get more information about caregiver support, educating the caregivers, learning more about what hospice truly is. It's My dad was on hospice for 4 years. You don't have to be on your deathbed to, get the benefits of hospice services. Yeah, and it's educating yourself more on what resources and programs are out there, um, financially, emotionally, physically, to support the caregiver in the home. So that's a really important. And next Monday, we'll talk a lot about TBI, traumatic brain injuries. We'll talk a lot about concussions, that sort of thing, but also how nutrition can play an inspiring role in combating the injury of TBIs. It's really powerful.
Yeah, I like what you say, folks. So there you go. I got concussions, TBI, what you say is traumatic brain injuries, right? And what was the other one you wanted to talk about?
Nutrition plays a huge impact on the degeneration of the brain injuries, concussions, neurological disorders.
Very good. Well, there you go, folks. Now you have a preview for what we're going to do on next week's edition of No Limits. So great show, Jennifer. Hope you enjoy your concert tonight, and looking forward to doing this with you next
Next
Monday
Monday.
night. Yeah, we go out there. We're ahead of Monday Night Football, so we make sure you learn a lot about what occurs on the field. Again, I emphasize this a lot. Okay, what Jennifer and I are doing, we are partnering up on this. Is we want to make sure we do everything in our power, right, Jen, to make
Yeah.
sure we get awareness to find a cure for Parkinson's disease. All we can do is just work our tail off to do that. And as I alluded to at the top of the show, again, we want to make sure that our deepest condolences are for all those individuals on 9/11 that lost their lives. Our hearts are always with you. And if you ever have an opportunity to go to New York City and be able to look at that site, it is something that will go out there and really hit you personally. But I think it's something everybody should do. I was been there a couple of times, and I actually saw the Twin Towers many years ago when I covered the Lions and the Giants. Actually, on a Monday Night Football, or it was actually there. It was Sunday Night Football, but I had a cab driver take me around, and it was unbelievable. But nothing more evidence than when I went out there again before. So again, our deepest condolences to them. But I'm glad that Jennifer and I had a chance to talk about 9/11 and a whole lot more. So I want to mention one last time, in case you didn't hear it, just so you know, No Limits is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of No Limits can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? Send topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter, @TribuneSouth. Candy Ebling will be taking care of Fire Up Wisconsin. She's behind the scenes. She'll be in front of the scenes with Jeremy Ballrick to talk about the Green Bay Packers opening win over the Bears and a whole lot more. So, Jen, thank you very much for being on tonight, and we'll look forward to doing it again next Monday night, ahead of Monday Night Football, without Howard Cosell, thankfully.
Absolutely.